in the grand scheme of things, if you treat people like like to be treated, and I don't know of anyone that doesn't want to be respected and loved and liked by everyone. I haven't seen anyone that doesn't like to be treated like a good human being.
Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast, where Keith and Doug give no-nonsense advice to level up your life. So buckle up and listen closely to Up Your Average.
Doug, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I wanted to throw out that today's podcast is sponsored by Ward. They donated this coffee cup to me, and today we've got the patriarch, Don Ward, joining us to just bring encouragement to your guys' lives. And so it is so good to have
I'm just one of the wards.
one of the Wards.
Senior.
I love it. Now, we were just chatting before we kicked off about your job as a paper boy. I don't even know if some of our listeners even know what a paper boy is.
Here, give this a toss. Let's see. Here,
Well, I'll tell you what happened. My mother, God bless her, every morning the Cincinnati Enquirer was delivered to the front porch of the house down in Ripley County, Osgood, population about 1,500 people. And I had a paper route of about 100 people.
Wow.
Every morning, 7 days a week.
That was a big route. That was nobody did 100 in my day.
It covered the whole town of Osgood.
Wow.
So
you were kind of famous in Osgood then. If you delivered 100 papers, everybody
I knew there wasn't anyone who lived in that town that I didn't know.
you know what I love is you folded that paper perfectly just now.
Well, the only reason I did that is because that's what my mother did with that paper. There was a big bundle, 100 papers thrown on the front deck of the house at home. And mother, before Dad left, he would leave the house about 6. That bundle of papers was on the porch. He brought them in, used snips to cut the wire. And then mother, as soon as Dad left, she would start folding those papers, and she would fold it so that it was just like that.
no rubber bands, huh?
No rubber band. No.
Okay.
No, just like that. And then I had a canvas bag that, and on the front of my bike, I had a big metal basket. And you'd set that bundle down in there. And then I would start out on my paper route, and the papers, God bless Mom, she folded every one of them like that. So it's all I had to do is reach in there, and I'd go down the sidewalk and only broke one window.
Now,
Never happened.
did you deliver Sunday papers?
Oh yeah.
So those are a bigger deal though. The Sunday paper was a lot thicker.
Oh well, sure. It's just a matter of stuffing.
So a penny of paper is what you earned.
That's what I got paid.
Yeah.
But there were very few opportunities for children, young kids, to make a buck. And money, we were poor, but we didn't know it. You never missed a meal. You had a roof over your head. It was, a beautiful time. And little did you realize as you were going through life how valuable that time span really was. Super.
Was this right at the end of the Great Depression when you were delivering newspapers?
After Depression of 28 on, and trying to think. No, it would have been, it was definitely after the Depression, but there were no jobs. There were, the opportunity for children anyway to make a buck. Mom and Dad, again, You were poor, but you really didn't know it.
Now, what did your dad do that taught you about becoming a lawyer?
Well, Dad really didn't have anything to do with it. My dad was originally from the state of Maine, and he had a brother, Uncle Jack, that was a lawyer. And at one time, I lived in the state of Maine early. So I went to court with Uncle Jack very few times. You know, I was just a little kid, but I enjoyed going to court and watching him. You know, I sat in a chair like right next to him, counsel table. Client sit. I would sit between the client and Uncle Jack. And, you know, every now and then I'd do something that I shouldn't be doing. And, you know, he'd yank that chair over and hey, behave yourself.
So was it? I think one of the common grounds everybody has is difficulty in life, and I thought you had told me it was tragedy that got you into the law profession. Is that right? Or
Well, it was. What it was, my youngest sister, Charlene, was riding as a guest passenger in a car with 4 other classmates of hers. And the driver of the car, this was a small town Osgood. And what happened was that there was another car with 3 or 4 kids in it also. And in the small town of Osgood, you got main road going right through town. And we lived on the north end. And these 2 cars, the 2 drivers, got in a drag race competition coming right into town. And a block from where we lived, there was a filling station. And between the edge of his property, the concrete, and the driveway, a lot of loose gravel. And the car Charlene was riding in, got in that gravel. He lost control. Driver did, because they were drag racing. And as a result of that, the car, the kid, there was a big maple tree right on that corner. And again, it was just a block from where we lived. And when he lost control in the gravel, that car went sideways, hit that tree. And Charlene was in the back seat by the door. And when it hit that tree, the door popped open and Charlene was thrown out. And when they found her back then, the mailboxes, I don't know if you remember, used to be concrete pillars, and there was mailboxes on top of that concrete pillar. That instead of you going downtown, there was about probably half a dozen of those boxes. And the mailman at that time, they walked the route, and they would clean. We never went downtown. That was just blocks away, but you just put your mail in the mailbox. John, when he came by, he would open up, take them on to the mail, and, you know. But when Charlene was thrown out of the car, unfortunately, her face wound up right next to that damn concrete, and it really did a number on her face. I mean, I was at Notre Dame in my last year in law school when that accident happened, and they called me, and at that time Notre Dame was all men, no women, and the Notre Dame at that time was just like the academies.
right.
Everything was controlled. You never did anything. You never wanted to bring a disgrace on Notre Dame, because if you did, you were gone. Didn't make any difference who you were. And I got the call, and how do I get from South Bend down to really the Ohio River? And this was 10 o'clock, 10:15, something like that.
Wow.
So they did transportation. There really was very little transportation, bus-wise even. But at that time of night, and they said, when I got the call from home, I said, Donnie, you got to get home. Charlene has been involved in a bad accident and she may not make it. Best thing you had. I put my coat on, but I never went out, and I never ever one time in the years I was in Notre Dame Law School, I never rode a bus. I always hitchhiked. And at that time, hitchhiking was accepted. Drivers didn't have any fear. Today, would you pick up a hitchhiker?
No, probably not. Yeah.
I know I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You like to be on green side up.
Well, how long did it take to get from South Bend to Osgood?
Osgood, yeah.
Like hitchhiking, how long do you think it was? Roughly.
Here in Indiana, what would happen is Mom and Dad would drive me from Osgood to Indianapolis the few times that I was ever home for whatever. And they would drop me off at 86. That was at that 86th Meridian. There was nothing. I mean, zero. It was just open country, is what it was. And the State Road 100 all the way around and coming up from southern, once you got to Indianapolis, you got on the State Road 100, come up the east side, make a left turn, come right across, it's still 100, and get off on Meridian at 86th Street. And I every time I ever went anywhere where I was going to be hitchhiking, I had a big leather suitcase. And there may not be much in it, but that was my pal. And it was big, like this thick, and would stand it up on end. And at that time, they had paper, big ND yellow and gold emblems. And I'd just turn that old suitcase around and it'd face people, any driver. And I never ever hitchhiked that I was not in a suit and tie.
That's good marketing right there.
You ever seen a hitchhiker in a suit and tie?
Not recently.
And people at that time had no fear of stopping and picking up hitchhikers. Not one time did they ever ride a bus from Indianapolis to South Bend.
Now, so your sister's accident spurred you to help other families with automobile accidents and things for a career. Tell me this though. Tell me about your bride. Where did you guys meet?
Blind date.
Blind date?
Blind date, right.
Were you in college then, or when did you meet?
I was starting my last year in the law school in Notre Dame. And two of my friends, Betty, she was a school teacher. And when she graduated from college, undergrad, she started teaching at school down in Lawrenceburg. And at that time, Veronica, my wife, was working there as the administrative assistant to the superintendent of schools. And Betty was a very close friend of mine, and her later husband was one of my best friends in Osgood. So the network is very small. And when I met, well, Betty, my friend, kept telling me I've got the perfect Catholic girl for you. And she was
Nobody makes an introduction that way. Just like they don't wear suits and ties, they don't say that anymore either.
and that was it was a great beginning. Labor Day weekend,
Cheers. Nice.
69 years.
Wow. How cool is that?
Great.
Yeah. So Veronica and you met on a blind date.
Sure did. That it was interesting. You know, she was beautiful.
So you guys had 6 children.
Yep, sure did.
Was that just at that time in history? Was that what a young Catholic couple did, or was that something you guys planned for? How did that, like, nobody has 6 kids today, right?
No. And Miss Veronica, she was the perfect.
Perfect wife and mom.
That was it.
Hmm.
To lose her.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That must mean that it's good, Don.
it was great.
Yeah.
Great.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's a really great thing. Great example for your family and happy for
Well,
you.
we were fortunate. We had 6 children.
Hmm.
All great.
Now, one of the things about your kids that I've always liked is how Charlie would go hang out with Donnie quite often, and and Charlie was it every Tuesday night? Tuesday nights.
Well, he did. As you know, Donnie was paralyzed from a diving swimming accident.
Yeah.
So he was that way 42 years. The kids, Charlie, had him very close, took him everywhere. There wasn't a tavern around, I don't think, that they didn't visit.
Did that, like, when the kids watched after Donnie, how did that make your soul feel? Did that just make you happy?
Well, obviously it did, because it. Some of his buddies, I don't want to say basically they just dropped him because what are you going to do? He's in a wheelchair, wheelchair.
Right.
He can still go every place. He still enjoyed smoking a cigarette. I used to get on. Don't you know what those are going to do to you, Daddy? He's always he'd look at me and say, Dad, what am I going to do? Die? You know, he could care less. He could care less. It was great.
So Donnie had a really remarkable sense of humor, I take it.
Well, he did. Well, he had buddies that, you know, and we were fortunate that you had the wherewithal to have a van that was handicapped equipped, and, you know, he could go any place anytime. Just couldn't get out of the damn wheelchair and walk. But there wasn't any place, and he went, took him, I don't know how many times to Notre Dame to the football games and get in the handicap section. It was, he lived those 42 years thanks to Veronica, really. That first thing in the morning, last thing at night, you know.
I can't think of any more powerful force on the planet than just love, like expressing love to somebody. And he had to know he was well loved, I think.
Well, He did not want for anything. He really didn't. Those 42 years, as I said, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. But we were fortunate. He had his mind. He didn't physically, he was dead, but mentally, he was, everything that was going on.
Can I ask you a difficult question, or
Be my guest. What question is difficult?
so in 1988, I was thinking of breaking up with this girl I was dating, and at 10 o'clock at night, I got a call that her sister just been killed in a car wreck. And that girl is now my wife that I got the call from. And that night kind of left a mark in my life. And so I imagine when you got that call on Donnie, it was pretty traumatic for the whole family. Like, you have a big family, so everybody, I assume, was at the hospital.
Oh, yeah. It was a long drive from 46th and Kessler Boulevard to Methodist Hospital.
Long being emotionally long.
Yeah. Yeah, because when we got it, at that time, a good friend of mine was the Marion County Sheriff, Larry Broderick. Represented Larry. He and Virginia, his wife, they were friends. And he called me at the home. Got me out of, well, I shouldn't say he didn't get me out of bed. I'd just gone to bed then. And he said, Donnie, called me Donnie. Your son has been involved in a bad traffic accident, and you need to get to Methodist Hospital because they don't expect him to live. As I said, that drive down there that night, Brian and I, you didn't say one word. You were praying.
It's just the two of you in the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yes. And well, he lived about as good a life as you could be in that condition. But Veronica, man, she every morning, every night, he was her life.
How did you and Veronica stick together? Because it's tough when you have a child who's disabled and an adult who's disabled. What do you think were some keys to success that I could share with friends who are struggling with that?
Veronica and I got together Labor Day, 1953. We were together 69 years. And during that 69-year period, beautiful life. Beautiful life. She was one of God's great creations. You could ask any one of our 6 kids, not Donnie now, but you could ask any one of them if they ever heard Brian and I have an argument over anything. But that was because of her. That was Veronica.
Yeah. Yeah. So she just had a winning spirit to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Met her on a blind date. And good friends. The gal I was in undergraduate school with was one who kept telling me about this beautiful Catholic girl. She kept telling Veronica this Catholic boy. Extremely fortunate.
Did you work for a law firm out of Notre Dame?
Well, it goes back to the automobile accident that my
Yeah.
sister was involved in.
Did that guy hire you?
That ultimately, yes.
Huh. Okay.
Well, I hired the Young and Young law firm, and hired what is and has been dead now, but he was the dean of the Indiana trial lawyers, statewide, border to border, side to side. Howard was it, and he was just a great human being.
Was he a Notre Dame grad?
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
Northwestern.
Okay. Okay. So would he tease you about that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Never did.
I bet that was fun.
He Howard had 9 children.
Wow.
He was a good Catholic boy.
Well, he wasn't, but his wife was.
Well, okay.
Same difference.
Same difference.
Yes, yes. No,
Now, were you partners then? You and Howard, were you law practice partners or?
oh yeah.
Okay.
I started out with it, but it was as a result of Charlene's accident. When I talked to the dean of the law school, they referred me to Chancellor Power Young in the Chambers in Indianapolis. The senior partner was a Notre Dame grad. And so Mom, Dad, and Charlene and I, we made the trip to Indianapolis, sit down with the senior partner, and he wasn't with us long. He said, "Your problem is not one of my problems in the practice of law," but he said, "I have the perfect lawyer for your daughter to talk to Mom and Dad." And he called Howard S. Young Jr. And Howard Young Sr. had just retired from the Indiana Supreme Court. So it doesn't get much better. And Howard became like a dad to me. Really did. He became Charlene's lawyer in that lawsuit. And as a result of everything we had to do together, and there was a lot that had to be done. And fortunately, it had a good result, and the final result of it for Charlene, because she wasn't going to be able to do some things in life because of the industry.
Now, this is a really stupid question, but was there
No such thing.
just stupid people? So was there? What was the insurance like back then for the driver of the car Charlene was in?
Well, at that time he was protected from being sued by Charlene because you had what they call the Indiana guest statute.
Right.
And the guest statute protected drivers of cars from hitchhikers. That's why that became a law, the guest statute. And in order for a guest passenger to sue the driver, the guest passenger is going to have to be able to prove in court that what the driver did was the extreme recklessness, carelessness, with the complete disregard for the passenger. And that was a hard hurdle to overcome. And most passengers were not fortunate in those situations. Why? Because when you filed a lawsuit, when a lawsuit would be filed against the driver, most people said, all told people sitting on a jury at that time, very easy to put myself in the shoes of the driver of that car, not with that guest passenger.
Mm-hmm.
So but that was the law at that time. And in order for us, for mom and dad and for Charlene, for us to be able to recover any insurance proceeds from the driver of the car that she was riding in, you had to be able to prove that the driver was extremely negligent. His driving amounted to willful or wanton conduct on his part.
Were you involved with that? Did you help with that?
Well, I was, because what happened was that as a result of that accident, when I got that call at Notre Dame, they said that, your sister is probably not going to make it. Horribly injured. As I said, when they found her, I found out later that her face was thrown right into that stone mailbox. And when I did the hitchhike from Notre Dame, Batesville, Indiana, the dead of night, finally got there early morning. And when I went in, you go to the nurse's station, I'm here to see Charlene Ward. She's my sister, and she was involved in an automobile accident. And told me the room. I walked down the corridor and went in, and there was a body that was in the bed. And I went over and looked at her. I turned around and walked out. And I told the nurse, I said, "That's not my sister Charlene."
Wow.
Yeah.
Horrible. Her face was ballooned, but completely. I mean, her eyes, looked horrible.
How did she, after she recovered, did she live with your parents, or where did she live the rest of her days?
Well, Charlene did that the good Lord provides. And Charlene, as horrible as she looked and was going to be in bad shape for the next year or two, she never had, not one time did she ever complain of pain.
Wow.
Not one time. That was hard to believe, because when you looked at her, and as badly as her face was,
So did she work, or what did she do?
she spent a couple of years recovering, and she went to Cincinnati and went to work for Western and Southern Life Insurance Company. And she worked there for 22 years.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was. Never married. They did a good job. The plastic surgeons did really a remarkable job on her face, because, again, when I came down that night from Notre Dame and then looked at that patient in her bed, that obviously was not Charlene.
Now, is your dad's name Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's where Charlie
Yep.
comes from.
Yep. That it is.
Okay.
So Charlene, did she have a good attitude the rest of her days, or how did she deal with that?
Believe it or not, the fall before her accident, she was the first pumpkin show queen down in Versailles, Indiana. They have this big to-do over a weekend every year. And that particular year, they countywide all the high schools they put up girls to be the queen of their school. And Charlene was for Osgood.
Wow.
And as luck would have it, she became the queen of all of it. I don't know, 8, 10, 12 schools, whatever it was. She was a pretty gal. But it was after that she was involved in that accident while riding as a guest passenger in the car. Never quite was the same afterwards. But she recovered and again had as good a life as you could really want for her. Be extremely fortunate that Western and Southern, once she started with them, and she wound up just being escalated in her job responsibilities, and
Well, we've been with our friends lately. We've been talking about how you expand your world and make your life bigger. And I think about at some point you started your own law practice, and I wasn't around when all that happened, but my gut tells me you were a big deal to the law profession, and you had great influence over the people of Indianapolis through that. How did you go about pursuing other legal professionals and making a difference in the city of Indianapolis? Because you had to be intentional about that, I assume.
well, I have been extremely fortunate. Indiana trial lawyers, your president, there wasn't anything really going on in the law profession in Indianapolis that you didn't have some input in. It's very fortunate. But in the grand scheme of things, if you treat people like like to be treated, and I don't know of anyone that doesn't want to be respected and loved and liked by everyone. There are rascals that sometimes wonder, but the vast majority of us haven't seen anyone that doesn't like to be treated like a good human being.
What was it like when you at some point you had to change the name of your law firm and it became Ward and Ward? What was that day like when you added your son to your practice? That had to be a big deal.
It was.
That was super creative marketing, by the way, Don. I mean, Ward and Ward. I mean, you really stepped out of your creativity there.
That, well, again, very fortunate. Charlie's been a godsend. He just I'm proud. He's just a superhuman being. He really is. He never meets a stranger, and he's there to help everybody. It doesn't make any difference what the hell's going on. He's there to be a part of their life. And a lot of his friends that I'm friends with, they talk about him, who he is, what he does. As a parent, obviously it makes you feel good. Very fortunate. Very fortunate.
So for those who aren't familiar with Indianapolis is the Circle City. And there's a circle downtown with a war memorial.
Right.
And there's a building right off the circle that has a shape. It's kind of curved in the structure. And it's just gorgeous. And I cannot imagine, I heard you and Keith talking about it earlier, but I cannot imagine what it was like to sign your first lease there. And how, like, as a man, I don't know how old you were when you did it, but that you must have felt 10 feet tall. That had to be a great time in your life. As far as Indianapolis real estate goes,
my youngest sister was involved in that bad accident, and as a result of that, when it happened, it was what at that time what we called a guest passenger lawsuit, and Charlene was horribly injured, and I at that time was in my last year in law school at Notre Dame, and I went in to see the dean and told him about Charlene's accident, and I said I needed a good lawyer. Again, at that time we had what they called the guest statute on the books, and Charlene was going to need a lot of help financially. And there was a possibility because of who the parties were that was involved. The money was there, but you had to get over this so-called guest statute. And what the guest statute did at that time, it protected the driver from being sued by a hitchhiker. That was the original thought behind creating the so-called guest statute that we had on the books. And that just meant that if you're a hitchhiker out here and you get in your car and you as a driver did something you shouldn't do, you blew that red light. Bad accident, the guest passenger is badly injured. Clear case of liability. You know, you were at fault. This passenger has a good cause of action, or you're reckless driving. But the guest statute protected you as the driver, unless you could prove that driver was willful or wanton in his driving, the way he drove. You know, he'd say, "Hey, watch this. See that red light? You're going right through it." Well, that would be considered a willful, wanton act on your part that you sure as hell shouldn't have done. And your passenger is horribly injured, and that was Charlene's case. And as a result of that accident, when I talked to the dean of the law school at Notre Dame at that time, he referred me, or well, I should say, mom and dad, and I went along. And Charlene, we went to Indianapolis and met the lawyer that the Notre Dame CEO said we ought to get in touch with. And that was the beginning of my connection winding up in Indianapolis, ultimately practicing law. A lot of steps in between, but worked out.
So that adversity from your sister's injury not only combined to give you a location to live, but it also gave you a vocation at the same. Yeah. So out of that came really good things in spite of you being able to see it at the time.
Yeah. Sure did.
Well, I imagine it helped you relate to your clients with not only knowledge, but empathy for their situations.
Makes it a lot of interesting tales that you can talk about how life goes on for all of us. You know, when you look back, and I think when I was a kid growing up in Osgoodale, I never had shoes during the summer. You were barefooted. Never wore a pair of shoes. Snowshoes, sneakers, called them at that time. And again, money was tight. When you, the sneakers that we wore, I still see them, you would wear holes in the soles all of your feet. And cut cardboard. Get thick pieces of cardboard, stick that in there, cut it out, put it on, move on.
No big deal.
No, it wasn't. No. God has been good, and has he? So many, beautiful memories.
I've heard about you that you're kind of like a mythological being that over the years you've helped people without them knowing you stepped in and helped them. And I couldn't even elaborate on what those might be, but I think for me as a leader, a young businessman, well, not so much young anymore, but to have role models like that know that are acting that way without me even having to know what you did, it motivates me to carry on that tradition.
Well, there's a lot of people that are a lot less fortunate than you or I, any of us. And it is such a little thing, really, to be able to step in and fill a little gap. And you never really know what the ultimate outcome is at a lot of times. But it's something, actually you enjoy being a little part of their life and helping in some fashion. And you can say a little prayer for them at nighttime. A lot of people less fortunate.
That's a good action step.
Yeah.
Say a little prayer for them at nighttime.
Hmm.
Any business person or a teacher or any profession or no profession can do that.
No question. And it's such a little thing. And you never know what the good Lord has in store for any of us, or that's a fellow human being, and it's a little something, but I'd like for the Lord to intercede, and never know. Never know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got this picture here is one of my cherished possessions right here. This is the Ward family here. I don't know if y'all can see this picture, and it just makes me smile when I think of you and Veronica, not only with what you've done outside of your family, but the joy that you brought to the world by bringing such a big family into the world is an amazing thing.
Well, extremely fortunate that all six of the children, Donnie's dead now, but for 42 years he was an inspiration to other people who were paralyzed, because he never, other than not being able to walk, he didn't miss out on anything, and he would encourage.
Now, if you were thinking about your great grandkids and you were going to give them a piece of advice or two, what would be a couple things you would tell them today?
Well, there would be a long list of things that you hope that your grandchildren, they have seen how you live. If you're a good model, mediocre, or maybe a bad one, but great memories. That photograph just brings back, big family. A lot of people that you have been fortunate to be a part of their lives. And, I am 96 years old. And, well, extremely fortunate, but
So did you think you'd get to 96? What were you thinking along the way?
I look forward. I'll be 104 long, and I'm going to be there. No doubt in my mind. Because really, as I sit here today, I don't have one complaint. Nothing physically. Some people might question mentally, but just extremely fortunate to be in the health that I am. What do you attribute to the Almighty? Sure enough.
Well,
Great.
I am humbled that you'd come hang out with us today. I sure appreciate it. Any other thoughts you have, Doug?
No, just thank you.
Thank you very much. We are honored.
My pleasure. My pleasure just to sit and talk, because it's been a great life. There are a few bumps in the road. Donnie's accident at that time was tragic. But Veronica, my wife, was 69 years. And, I can tell you, I say we never had an argument. Not one time. She was an angel. She was perfect.
Well, I think to wrap the day up, we might see if you could throw this at our neighbor's porch and break their window. I bet you still got a pretty good arm.
Well, you rode down the sidewalk. I never walked. I had a bicycle, and you delivered the papers. And if you get one, and at that time there was a lot more advertising in the paper, and some of those papers, if the butt end of that paper, you wind up and you throw it, you could hear it hitting the storm doors, and you just
Satisfaction, the sound of satisfaction.
yeah.
I may have to make a small confession to you here, Mr. Ward. I'm not exactly sure where and how I learned to cuss, but it was the Sunday newspapers that made my bicycle fall over quite a bit. They were a lot bigger and get me off center, and I'd be picking newspapers up off the middle of the road oftentimes on a Sunday.
I can relate to that. Really can.
Well, thank you all for hanging out with us today. We're going to stay here and hang out with Mr. Ward, and you guys enjoy your weekend.